Stuff's spilling out over here. That awkward part of the Q&A when no one talks.
Good evening. Jackson. Hey, Steve. Wabash Valley. Hey, Brent. Glad to see you're here on time this time.
God, it's a good thing you two are friends. Anyone else would be like, dude, what's your deal? They're friends, just so everybody knows. He's not just being a jerk. We are doing good. We just put our chickens to bed.
Yeah, chicken just went.
We become an old Southern couple. We spend our evenings with our chickens.
Cleveland. Kennedy. I hope that gun confiscation hasn't started up there already. I guess if there was some way they could challenge that. Chickens, yeah, we have 4 chickens.
Yeah.
Hopefully they're going to start earning their keep pretty soon.
That was part of the
pandemic
quarantine, yeah. Sitting outside and not leaving the house. Going, you know what would be really cool? You know, we can't get eggs. Let's get some chickens. I mean, I am a Southern girl.
Rhode Island.
So you guys are really fortunate. So far, I do have a question, but it is for an email response. So we are starting with a clean slate tonight. So our preferred method of donating during the chat is through DonorBox. DonorBox only takes 3%. Google takes 30%. So you're more than welcome to use the $ during the super chat to get your question bumped to the top. But our preferred method is always DonorBox because Google takes so much. But we don't just take paid questions. It's usually at this point, I would say maybe 20% paid, and the rest are questions that I pull. You're welcome to ask your question more than once. I know I sometimes get onto people for spamming, but it's just if you just keep putting it in and hitting enter and putting it in, hitting enter. But I do, if it's been 5 minutes or whatever, don't worry, 10 minutes even, I do roll back up to the top and try to go in order and get them. That's why I get upset when people spam the chat, because then I lose my spot. And I don't know where I'm at anymore. Hey, Carrie. How are you doing, Carrie? Hopefully you're doing well.
Carrie, I saw a really cool meme.
He said, be all you can be.
And it had a picture of a grunt who's sleeping with his combat boots on, and it said, if you've ever slept in your boots. And then below it, it said, no, you're Air Force. So, yeah, we're the only ones that sleep in our boots. You guys don't. You guys, probably are tucked into bed with your bedroom slippers and all that kind of good stuff. We're the ones stuck in the holes with the real combat boots.
Canada sucks for gun ownership. I'm Canadian.
Yeah, I'm very sorry to see that. This, unfortunately, this attitude's spreading way too quickly.
Carrie says I'm above ground, ... I think that's the general feeling for 2020. Like, I guess you have to be thankful if you're above ground, because there's not a whole lot of things to look forward to. Everything's kind of messed up right now, but hopefully we'll have some entertainment for tonight and get a bunch of questions answered. And Chris, if you knock that desk again, I'm gonna have to hurt you. Okay, let's see. What's your thoughts on the Bren 2Ms? Had a chance to handle the 7.62x39 models. Have you had a chance?
I actually have a Bren 2MS 14.5 inch right next to me. Unfortunately, I can't show it because of the rules. I am extremely fond of it. I was talking to William, which we should go over about the new 2MS carbine, And yeah, the carbine's not such a great thing. The original 2M and the 2MS are much nicer. They're actual Czech. They're real Czech, with the exception of you having to have a brace on them. Unfortunately, what was done to the carbine with the heavy barrel and just totally getting away from what the original rifle really was sort of sucks. But there will be a video coming out. I've sort of been waiting to get my hands on the new MS carbine. I've had one in order for quite some time. I wanted one with my 2MS pistol, 14.5-inch with pistol brace, as well as the newer one. But I may end up having to push through and go without the MS carbine, as it's still taking a while to get one of those in.
I'm curious if you heard of the LWRC SMG 45 accuracy issues. I'm kind of surprised that something like that slipped through. And what do you think it possibly could be?
I have not heard that. I've got one of those on order. I've had one on order for almost since SHOT Show, that time period. Unfortunately, for someone like us, the channels like this, if they're selling out of their products, as soon as they can build them, they're not really worrying about marketing and sending them out to writers for us to review. So I have had one on order for quite some time. Hopefully I will see one in the not too distant future. I do ask them regularly about that, but I have not heard that issue, and I really can't imagine what would cause it. They make incredible barrels over there. They make them in house too. They have their own cold hammer force machine.
We get this question a lot. I think somebody asked it a couple of weeks ago too, but I don't think you ever got to it. Will you be expanding your channel to include reliability testing, mud, sand, snow, water test? Which rifles do you think would survive the furthest into those tests?
I can't see doing that due to the fact that there's a specific way this is done, and it's under a laboratory condition, and to try to recreate that, not to mention most of these are my personal firearms. A lot of those ones that I use, I'm not really willing to take a $4,000 MR762 and run it through the mud. I don't think you see the benefits to it. As I said, there's guys who do it for your entertainment value. I think I'll let those guys do that kind of stuff. To do this stuff properly and to give you guys the real idea of what it is, there's a lot of things that have to happen. Specific types of ammunition, specific rifles that are made specific ways. It's not just as simple as taking any AR off the wall of a gun shop and running it through it, and it's going to perform the same way a Mil-Spec one will. It's a little bit more complicated than that.
I love marksman. I think that we all feel that way. I wish we could finish the game of Jumanji. 2020 definitely is Jumanji. John, what buffer weight would you recommend for an 11.5 AR? If
it's a standard barrel, a standard lightweight pencil barrel, an H or a standard. Probably an H would be the best. The only way I would go any heavier than that is if you have an extremely heavy barrel version, which you shouldn't. There are some versions that do, which would require an H or an H2, but most of those 11.5s are going to be thin barrels, which an H is plenty.
Lots of questions are starting to come in. If O-rings improve extraction reliability, why doesn't the military adopt it in their rifles? Maybe extreme environments affect the rubber.
It's only been used by SOCOM. It's a very good question. It's like anything else. If Uncle Sam's happy with it, they don't see the need to change, they won't. SOCOM is much easier for them to make changes to make those kinds of improvements. It's something that's just never been added by the U.S. government. I can't give you a reason. Should they? Absolutely. Every M4 carbine should have one of those, or M4A1 should have one of those. It's a reliability enhancement for every single rifle. But SOCOM is free to make those kind of changes. Regular Army, on the other hand, unless they see a problem, which they generally don't with the extractors, they're not using them the same way that SOCOM is. So they don't, we're not going to do it.
Hey, John, thank you. I don't know if you had a question or not, but thank you. How important is it for a gun to be able to fire with its stock folded?
Considering the fact that most engagement, you have a lot of engagements that are mounted now. If you look at Afghanistan and Iraq, there's a lot of mounted transportation, people in vehicles, Humvees, and so forth. So coming out of those vehicles, it's important to be able to have a weapon that will function with a stock folded. For instance, that's why you don't see ARs, with side folding stocks like you see like with the lawman tactical. They're where you only get off one shot. You don't see that. You have telescopic stocks on M16A4s now because of that. It's important to always have your rifle ready to fire, and to have any kind of a condition where it's not ready to fire at a second's notice is a problem. I think a lot of that law enforcement tactical, where you have that, where it separates like that, where you can only get off one shot with the stock closed, I don't think that's a good idea whatsoever. I think that's more of a detriment.
Why does my LMT upper fit no other lowers and my LMT lower fit no other uppers?
It's very strange. I have noticed that the LMT MRP uppers, that we have a couple of Brandon at the gun room, who always helps me out with the full auto stuff that I do. He's got 2 full auto lowers. I think one's let me see, one is, I think, a Wilson, the other is an Aero Precision, and the one, you can't even pull the charging handle back with the MRP upper that's on there. You put any other upper on it, it will. There tends to be, with some out of spec lower receivers, where there could be an issue. However, I have a SBR lower here where I have cold uppers on it. I have everything that goes onto it. So I guess you're looking at stack of tolerances, between the uppers and the lowers. Also, LMT does have their own TDP. They make everything so everything fits together perfectly and works perfectly, where their dimensions may be different from some of these companies who, they just reverse engineer, and they don't know what the upper end and what the lower end is. So that could be, keep those two guns together, keep those parts together.
Hey, Adnan.
Hey, Adnan.
What do you think of the BCM Mark II upper receiver?
I'm trying to get one. Probably around May, I sent Eric Kinsel, my contact at BCM, an email that I wanted to, get some more BCM stuff in, including that. And he said it wasn't a good time, obviously, because they were balls to the walls with producing guns because of the demand and so forth, that I should get with him at a later date. Here we are, middle of August. I was thinking giving him a call again, but I got a feeling I'm going to get the same thing from him, that, they can't keep up with production alone. It's not worth it for them to send out, guns to reviewers. But I have been working on that. I've been wanting to see it myself.
Before I forget, everybody who pre-ordered a signed copy of Black Rifle 2, those books, for the most part, have come in. And I actually just got them in. So if you guys follow us on Facebook, you saw the photo that I put up today of about 25 books laid out for him in a row to sign. So please be patient with the process, because some people have very specific inscriptions that they want, but I am working, I worked all day on that today. So actually 3/4 of them went out. So if you received an email with a tracking number, then you were part of that batch that went out. If you weren't, be patient. I was missing some addresses, and I did email a few of those people, and I'll try to finish up another batch tomorrow. We are, however, 6 books short. So it looks like I'm going to have to order another case, which is 14. So if anybody would like one of the 8 that will be available from that case, this is your final, I know I've said that a few times, but this actually is your final time. I don't order them and keep them on hand as much as Chris would like me to, just because I get so busy editing and like doing all the other stuff that I have to do, that it's impossible for me to like ship 1 book at a time. It's easier for me to do ginormous batches like this, and we haven't had the opportunity to do it because it hasn't been in print. So we've strike while the iron's hot, but another case will be in soon. It doesn't take long for them to get here, but if you would like to be one of those 8, because I don't order any extras, they're too expensive. We don't, we have to pay quite a bit for those books, and but they'll come signed. And if you want them inscribed with anything in particular, you just let me know in the email. You can email me at hbartachi@smallarmsolutions.com. They're $95. That includes shipping, the signature, everything. And I mean, they're great if you know a guy too for Christmas and you want to give them out for Christmas or whatever. They're a great coffee table book. Because I had to weigh it today, and it was like, 3 pounds 2 ounces. It's quite a book. I know, because some people were asking if they were hardcover or if they were paperback.
No.
It's like, oh no, it's a hard cover.
Grade is the standard.
It is a library grade book. So last chance. I won't say that. About 30 today. Is there any good reason why the Breto 92 P38 locking system has never been used with a polymer frame?
Well, if you look at the way the locking block the way it uses the rails and whatnot, you would have to make a very heavy duty insert, and quite frankly, it's not the most reliable system. The linkless Browning is a much more reliable system. You don't have the issue with the locking lugs cracking, even though you're looking at 20,000 rounds. It's still a potential. There are other designs that are stronger. I've always said I would always maintain that the Beretta is probably the most reliable semi-automatic pistol ever developed. Not the most durable, but it's definitely the most reliable. And there's just some better ways to go about doing things. It just wouldn't make sense to try to do it like that.
I just popped my email in there so you guys that are interested. I know somebody said about purchasing a black rifle. I don't know if you're talking about one or two. I've had people who've actually emailed me about Black Rifle 1. We're not ordering those books just because he didn't write that book, and it gets a little difficult trying to keep that separate when I'm already sending so much out. But there was one up here that huh?
Down further.
No, that's not where I was going.
Okay.
Well, I'll pull this one while I go try to find that other one. I get the impression the M193 is generally a more effective round than the M855. Would you go into details comparing the two rounds, strengths and weaknesses?
Sure. If you go back in time, the original rifle was developed around an M193 type with a 55 grain full metal jacket, 1 and 14-inch twist. Initially, out of Vietnam, that's where the horrific wounds, which Nick gave the rifle term the Black Rifle by the NVA and the VC. They were terrified of it. Due to the fact there was issues with the bullet stabilizing in Arctic environments, they had to increase the velocity, increase the twist from 1 and 14 to 1 and 12, give it more stability. That would stabilize the tracer in cold weather. The environment is quite different in extreme cold than it is. The air is, believe it or not, much heavier. It had gone on to have an incredible reputation for brutal wounds and accuracy. Now we talk about the M855. That round was originally designed for a belt-fed machine gun. It was not designed for a rifle for any kind of precision accuracy. And the problem was when it was adopted by NATO, they adopted a round that was not designed for a rifle. It was designed for a machine gun. Due to the way that the round was produced, you had three parts. You had the copper jacket, you had a steel penetrator core, and you had a lead plug. If that penetrator wasn't centered properly, it would throw off its center of mass, center of gravity, and it would cause the round to have flyers. It was not accurate. In fact, the first generation of, or the first M16A2s that were produced by Colt, Colt had notified the military that we can't pass these rifles because they won't meet the rifle accuracy specifications. With the new XM855, well, when they got the M193, it worked beautiful. They had no problems with accuracy. So there was no question that the M183 was more accurate because it was a full metal jacket. It was a two-piece full metal jacket. Now comes what you're talking about with the lethality. Now, due to the fact you have a 62 grain projectile with a 1 and 7, you have a much it's a much faster stabilized bullet. You get longer range. With a proper projectile, you get more accuracy. You do tend to lose a little bit of terminal. Now we take it to the point where we have the three pieces. Well, if the consistency is not there in production, the consistency in internal performance is going to be different. You would have lot to lot, where you would have bullets or M855 that would blow through these small malnourished Taliban or Taliban or Al Qaeda. They blow right through. Sometimes they would go in a couple inches in yaw. Sometimes they would go 4 inches in yaw. There was nothing that was consistent about it. Where that wasn't the case with the M193, and that's not the case with the Mark 262. Quite frankly, the M855 was always a shit bullet. They should have gone with a 55 or 62 grain full metal jacket instead of the steel penetrator core. It appears as though the M855a1 is improved over the accuracy issues of the M855. Unfortunately, I haven't had enough rounds myself to be able to test that to see if it's the case or not. But this has been going on for quite some time. The the true problem with the 62 grain projectile was the bullet that they chose. It was designed for a machine gun, not for a rifle. And using that bullet in a rifle, you're not going to get the full potential of that rifle's accuracy because of the type of projectile that you use.
They're giving me hell because they can only see a portion of me.
Well, that's usual.
They said she's a vampire and that's all of her body the camera will pick up. I'm not a vampire.
I've tried to get her for last year or so to get back in again to get her, but she won't.
No, he tells me he doesn't want me in here. No.
Lies.
Oh, somebody was asking up at top if you've thought about contacting Ian's publisher for Black Rifle 3. Didn't you tell me he was like not interested?
No, well, there was a different project. I talked to James Ripley about. It was basically a manual that I had written a while back. It was a complete identifications guide where it had all Colt barrel markings, bolt markings, receivers. It had all that stuff. And I guess Ian saw it. He didn't think that it was a good idea, so they didn't really want that. For as far as Black Rifle 3 is concerned, nobody would do that but what Blake Stevens. I mean, nobody else would do it in the same way. They would put their own flame, their own flair to it. It wouldn't be the same. Any book they would do, they would come out. Again, I'm not really interested in doing that at this time. But if I was to do another book, it would not be called Black Rifle 3 because it just wouldn't be Black Rifle without Blake Stevens.
You have to do Black Rifle 3. Trust me, I'm working on it. In fact, they're giving me hell, which is
during the first book. The biggest issue that came up with doing Black Rifle 2 was not having the money to do it properly, not having the money to do. I'm not like like Vickers and people like that who have people who sponsor them. I was doing it myself. Black Rifle 2 would have been a lot better if I would have had the money to go visit a lot more companies and to do a little bit more. You can't do it. In the case of Black Rifle 3, it would be quite complicated because, again, Colt doesn't like me anymore. Not that there's been that much, since then. But considering the amount of money that it would take to be able to travel to get the information, and then to decide what information that you want, because there's so much that's changed over the last 20 years, since the Sullivan Man sunset. It would be complicated. I mean, I've had down for years. I've had some of the start of Black Rifle 3. I've had somewhat of an outline of it and everything too. But again, you're looking at the cost of it. You really need to have funding to be able to do something like that, to do it right.
These comments are hilarious. One guy says, "If you see both her eyes, you'll spontaneously combust." He'll tell you that that's truth, especially
as long as you don't get the look.
Yeah.
That look.
Yeah. Are PCCs a fad? It seems like a niche and impractical to me.
Tell me if PCC, the acronym again. Unfortunately, it's slipping my mind at the moment.
Please don't make me have to look it up. Okay, I'll look it up. Oh, and Brent, I saw your oh, okay. You just gave it to me. I saw it pop up for Chris first, and I was
pistol caliber carbine.
I was going to tell you.
Okay, thank you.
It to me, so I got.
No, by no means is it a fad. There's a complete market for that, and the market does quite well. The 9mm do incredible. Of course, now you're seeing them in 40 and 45. No, I don't think for a second that that's a fad. The 9mm SMG in the U.S. died, with the onset of the M4. Once law enforcement realized that it was far more effective to have a 5.56 in urban environments than it was 9mm.
This guy's the GOAT in AR talk. That would have been a really good channel name. Could have been like AR GOAT. You don't know what GOAT means, do you?
No.
Greatest of all time.
Well, there's been a comeback. Overseas, however, even though the market has been limited in the United States for SMGs, 9mm, overseas it's not. They're still considered viable weapons in Europe and Southeast and the South America, Central America, India, and Middle East. So no, I don't think they're a fad. I think you're going to see more and more of them, quite frankly, especially when we have this, the quote pistols now. people liking them for truck guns or trunk guns, just in case they end up in a situation that's bad with all the civil unrest. I think they're quite popular now. They're not going nowhere.
This is a long one. Chris, have you noticed that some companies who are making budget lowers and parts are now using raw forgings? Not saying they definitely are, but possibly from China. I have seen some newer lowers that the profile of the forging area around the receiver extension is identical to raw forging samples that I received as a sample from a company in China. What are your thoughts?
Well, first off, right now, talking to many companies, there's only so many forging houses in the United States. Most of them come from the exact same places, whether you're your Colt or whether you're Centurion or whether you're Armalite. They're all coming from the same place. So, with that being said, with the way it is right now, with people can't keep up with production, there isn't enough to go around. Now, I have not personally seen anything coming from China. What you may be referring to as raw forging is they're not finished. You'll see like the seams on them at some point where they're not really refined. I cannot confirm or deny that there's stuff coming in from China. At this point, would I be surprised? No, because there is such a demand and such a low. These companies can't keep up.
What's the purpose of the M855 black tip AR rounds? I've never used them when I was in the military. Is there any real world application to this round?
That is an armor piercing round. In fact, it is probably the most effective 5.56 AP round in the world. It has a very sharp carbide bullet or carbine core that's in the center of it. It really has only been used by SOCOM. It's unfortunate that it wasn't around more because anybody who's on a checkpoint where they could be dealing with cars, the M995 and there's the 7.62 version of that, which M99, I can't recall off the top of my head. Those rounds would be ideal for trying to stop vehicles. The penetration is unbelievable. It whips the hell out of the M855 and the M855a1. I have a piece of steel sitting next to me here where you can see the differences between the two. You won't find the round for sale because it's armor piercing. So therefore, by ATF, it's illegal. I've done quite a bit of testing with it over the years. There was another AP round that was put out by Silver State Armory that was quite well too. But I have to say the M955 is undoubtedly the best penetrating round. However, it costs last time I heard it was like $3 a round. So that was prohibitive for the U.S. government. So far as I know, it has only been used by SOCOM. It's never been used by a regular Army, although it does have a place. There are people who should have it. And like I said, anybody who you're dealing with vehicles or trying to stop vehicles, it's an ideal round for that. However, on terminal performance, no, it's going to blow right through. The jacket will peel right off of it, and the round will go right through. It'll overpenetrate. It's not a good anti-personnel round. It's more of an anti-material round.
I have two LMT rifles in 5.56 with Mars lower, and I'm wondering, would you recommend anti-rotation pins or anti-walk pins for that with the standard Mil-Spec trigger?
Absolutely not. The only reason for anti-walk pins is if you don't install it properly. Now, there are some drop-in trigger components where you have to use it because the hammer and trigger the springs don't connect. Because basically what happens is when you drop your trigger in, you have the trigger pin has a ledge on the right-hand side or left-hand side of the other side. When you install the hammer, the leg of that hammer spring goes over that notch, and that's what locks it into place. Then you have a J pin, which is inside of the bottom of the hammer, which locks into the notch on the center of the hammer trigger pin. As long as that's assembled correctly, there is absolutely no reason whatsoever to waste your money on any kind of an anti-walk system. That is only good for people who are using trigger systems where they're drop-in. There's like a drop-in version. It's not utilizing normal components. If you're using any normal components, it's a complete waste of money. Make sure you assemble it properly.
Your thoughts on 10 millimeter cartridge in the Glock G29 as a carry and self-defense gun?
I have a G20. Now, the problem with it is if you're using full powered 10 millimeter ammunition, the recoil is unmanageable. If you have to get off multiple shots, it's really a lot for a defense gun. It's a real heavy recoil. If you're using some of these reduced recoil where it basically feels like a 40, it's no big deal. Overall, I think it makes a better hunting cartridge than it does a self-defense cartridge. You're basically equivalent to a 41 Magnum. My Glock 20 with full-powered 10mm ammunition is not pleasant to shoot. I'm not going to go out there and fire 200 rounds, in an afternoon with it. It's just too much recoil. And it's not to say that you can't use it. I'm just saying that, overall, for getting off shot to shot, multiple shots, your recovery time, from going from shot to shot, I think you probably have to have somebody who is a little bit more versed and practices a lot more to utilize something of that, of that caliber, literally.
I'm new to the channel. Do you do reviews on other type of clone guns like Zenith or just HK MP5?
No, I have tried to get a Zenith. They haven't returned my phone call. I did one on a PTR. In fact, right now, I'm just finishing up, getting ready to do the filming for the tabletop of the new SP5 HK. I do a lot of different guns. If I can get my hands on it and if it's within my area of expertise, I do it. There's a lot of companies that I call on a daily basis here that they won't respond generally because I don't have enough subscribers. While they want Mac and they want people who have 1 million plus, not somebody who's only got 56,000. They won't take me serious until I hit that 100,000 or whatever, probably. But I do. If somebody wanted to get me a Zenith, I would be happy to review it. Again, I'm basically stuck with the companies that will send stuff to me and the ones that won't. But I would love to do some Zenith. In fact, the Zenith has the HK 93, the 5.56. I would love to review that. Again, they don't return my calls.
Are the local stores down in Texas getting any new ammo, or is it a desert? Or do you just have like a decade's worth of ammo sitting in your house?
I don't go to gun shops. One of the benefits of what I do, being content creators, is ammunition manufacturers provide me with ammunition so I can do this work. Because quite frankly, if I had to pay for ammunition, you guys wouldn't have videos. Because I can go through $200-300 in ammunition when this video would make $10 or $20 or $30 on a video. It will be absolutely impossible.
The only
for us.
video that's ever really made anything was the M16 in Vietnam video.
Yeah, so we literally would be coming up negative if we had to provide do the ammo. It just wouldn't happen, and that's the same with most content creators.
We're already coming up negative.
So I have a couple 3 manufacturers who provide me with ammunition so I can do my reviews. So therefore, I don't go to gun shops. I don't buy my guns at gun shops. I go through Brandon, the gun room. He does my transfers for me. So really what's in the local gun shops, I don't know because I don't go to them. I have no reason to. So I don't know what they have around here. But my ammunition basically, if I have a gun coming in, I'll let my suppliers know that, hey, I got this coming in, will you provide? And you hear me talking about the ammunition, so it works out for both of us. They make this video possible, and I give them call outs. And hopefully you guys will go out and buy that ammunition, so that circle keeps going. If they help me, I help them, you buy from them, they're happy with me, they send me more ammo so I can do more videos.
Yeah, somebody said Chris is sponsored by Black Hills. Not really.
Yeah, it's not sponsored. They have supported me.
Because there's nothing that I have to insert into anything. No. There's no... They know and they've given him ammunition for before we even had the channel because he wrote in Small Arms Review for years.
It goes back to 2004.
Yeah, because he couldn't write those articles unless he had ammunition.
And all the companies that really helped me out, SIG is a big help. With SIG ammunition, Hornady is a really big help. Occasionally I can get stuff out of Remington. And then thank God for Brownells, because Brownells is a major supporter of us too. So somewhere I'm able to get the stuff, and nobody requires me to do anything. I give all the information, tell you about the performance, but no one's actually officially a sponsor. Okay, we're going to give this to you. You have to do this. We don't have that. These are people who have been supporting me for the last, 20 years since I've been writing.
A long time.
Yeah, long time.
And he's not a prepper either.
No, I'm not a prepper at all. What you see behind me, that's work. That's, I go out to the range on Monday.
Just a standard amount of ammunition, no biggie.
I go out to the range on Monday. I can bring 1,000 rounds, 2,000 rounds.
And yet it still doesn't look like it's disappearing at all.
No,
it grows spontaneously. It's like you pour something on it and it grows overnight.
Well, you replenish, and we have different guns or different tests. Some guns we only do a couple hundred rounds. Some guns I'll do 1,000 rounds on. Some guns I've done 5,000 rounds on. So it just depends on what's being done.
What's your opinion on the HK417?
I have one of them right next to me. It's an MR55 or MR762. That's one I've been waiting for a couple of years, for over a year, from my buddies over at American Tactical AMCHAR. The one that I have, it's sort of funny because mine, it's brand new, but it's old configuration. I wanted the 1913 rail, the 9-inch, because I also like using the folding front sight that goes in the front of the gas block that folds up. All the current ones that are produced have these long handguards that are almost to the end of the barrel, so you can't use that. So I have a preference for those iron sights and the 1913 rail, and also the HK folding rear backup sight. It's a nice rifle. It's a very accurate rifle. It's not what people wanted. People wanted the HK unobtainium French steel, cold hammer forged barrel. You didn't get that. Instead of what you got was it's still HK steel, cold hammer forged, but you don't have the chrome plating. It's a choke barrel, so as the barrel gets longer, the bore gets narrower, so you get more of a gas seal, more accuracy. So it's an incredibly accurate gun for what it is. People weren't too fond of the having to have a front and rear takedown pin that you have to use a tool or a bullet tip to be able to unlock because it's spring loaded. People that weren't too fond of that. Overall, what the price point is on this, it's really hard to justify buying one because there are other guns who do the same thing better, a lot cheaper. That's not taking away from the quality of it. It's the quality is extreme. It's very well made. It's typical German. But if you had $4,000 in your pocket, are you going to buy a HK 416 or spend 2.5 and buy an LMT that does 10 times more and have more of the options? And then plus being able, like with LMT, for that same amount of money, you could have an MWS with a 308, a 6.5 Creedmoor barrel. Different lengths, the SBR. You could have a 13-inch barrel. You could have a 20-inch barrel. I mean, or you could spend that money on ammunition. It's one of those things where it's nice, but I guess if you got deep pockets and you just have to have it, it's there. If they would lower that price, it would be really an awesome gun. It's just they're just so damn expensive, and all the parts are proprietary, which is the same thing with the HK 416. You're buying a gun that's completely proprietary that if you need to get parts, you better hope Brownell's got those parts or that H&K actually has them imported and in stock. That's the other thing that you have with HK. HK likes being proprietary. Everything that they have, they like being proprietary.
Everybody likes my idea of ammo that grows. This guy's been very diligent about wanting the camera pointed this way. Thank you. My regular Chris there is letting him know. Anybody who's new here, why she only shows an eyeball. Most of the time, you don't even get that. Most of the time,
well, maybe you can answer that because I sure as hell can't.
Carrie always says, Heather, are we going to get your elbow tight? I just don't want to be on camera. That's just not my thing because I run the channel behind the scenes. This is his channel. I'm just the one who controls it. I see you rolling your eyes.
She does just as much as I do with it.
No, I don't have half a body. No,
all you guys are always sending her that she's just as much that you want to see her and everything, but she doesn't. But that's typical. She's female. If you ask her to do something, she's not going to do it.
I've shown.
She's going to argue with you.
I've been on camera all Q&A before. Then we did Valentine's that way. See, I have a whole face. See, you still only got 3 corners of it. I try to show sometimes just because people will be like, where's the voice coming from?
She's not Wilson from
no, he likes to say that. Oh God, I'm not Wilson.
Okay, we're 326 right now.
Yes, everybody hit the like button, thumbs up the video, please. It's easy. It helps the channel. I don't know, you'll good karma for the day. Hit the like button. I'd like to put in a drop in trigger in my LE6920, but not at the cost of reliability. What are your thoughts? And do you recommend any manufacturers?
Well, first off, what are you using the gun for? If you're using it as a self-defense gun, I would completely leave it alone. If you're trying to use it as more of a match gun to get more accuracy out of, I think there's some better options. Number one, Centurion Arms has a very nice 2-stage trigger, which is very reasonably priced. That would be certainly an excellent option. Of course, Geisley, if you want a 2-stage. Of course, I'm a big Hipperfire fan. That's another good option. But most of the time, leave it alone. If you're using it as a going to go off by accident or unintentionally, yet you still have a good trigger. But if you want to, cost effectively right now, probably one of the best one would be probably that one over at Centurion Arms. We have a code for that too. It'll save you some money. I just put one in one of my rifles here. It's quite nice. I definitely think it's an alternative to spending $300 on a Geisley, but Geisley would be my number two.
Well, this is nice. They said I'm much prettier than you.
Of course, absolutely. I always say I'm not much to look at.
Called Wilson. She's like Charlie from Charlie's Angel. Now I'm a dude still. Like, shit, you guys are not helping me feel any better. Let's see. I believe you've mentioned before that you think the monolithic rail is a great thing. Can you go into more detail about its advantages?
Well, the benefits are, first off, the most important benefit is return to zero. When you have say you have an M4 carbine with a Nitride on it, you have the receiver, which is stable. And then once you put something on that receiver, that rail is going to move, whether it's going to be because of just the dimensions of how it's assembled, or with the harmonics of the barrel, or it's going to move with the barrel, with the heat, and so on and so forth. So when you put something on there, it's not going to retain the same zero. Second of all, when you have a monolithic rail, you have a complete free-floated barrel. By having a complete free-floated barrel, it aids in accuracy because the barrel it's free for its harmonics to happen. So it gives you that it gives you the benefit of accuracy. Also, for as far as cooling, when you have a hot barrel, a lot of people like to use vertical pistol grips. When you have a regular RAS system, as you pull down, you're pulling down directly on that barrel, which under certain circumstances of heat could cause that barrel to bend. That won't happen with monolithic rail. You can put anything that you want on that, and it will not affect your accuracy whatsoever. So there are many, many benefits. Of course, you go that much further, like with the LMT MRP system monolithic rail platform. Now you can also have the ability to change out, barrels and calibers and operating systems. Where if you look at, say, the Colt LE6940, which I believe is the finest of the Colt rifles, that's the M4's finest hour. I think is the LE6940. And 4142. I'm sorry, 4144. You have a free floating barrel. You have all those benefits of return to zero, which you can put a optic on anywhere on there, and it's going to stay the same. Same thing with your IRs or whatever you're going to put on the side. You have the heat. You have easier cooling. You just have everything. It's completely a better system. Negative. Heavier, generally it's heavier because again you have one solid aluminum forging that you've chipped out to give you this. But to have the benefits of the return to zero, to have the benefits of the free floated barrel for accuracy, to be able to put whatever you want on it weight wise and it not affect the accuracy or affect any weight in the barrel, it's a complete enhancement over anything else that's out there.
Someone was asking if you're growing your beard out again.
It's been a little bit less recently.
Yeah, he's been wanting to take it down more. Is Korean military surplus ammo good quality? I'm looking at 30 carbine.
Well, I have used since I was a kid PMC. PMC is made out of Korea, and it was always good ammunition. I never could say anything bad about it. PMC has probably been one of the most consistent and long-going of those military cartridges that's out there, making military caliber cartridges. So I would be very, I'd definitely say no problem with that, buying anything in the Korean PMC line. Now, outside of PMC, I couldn't tell you, but I've used a significant amount of PMC. I wish I could get my hands on more of that now, but I generally don't have the ability to.
Thank you for mentioning that, Miles. I still remember when someone took a screenshot of both of you during the live stream and swapped your faces.
Yep, and they had my assault terrier.
And y'all wonder why I don't want to be on camera. I don't want to be my face swapped out with him. That's not cute. Working with called to the company try to go for the Asian market. The region doesn't really have a gun culture like the West. It must be challenging.
We did. Well, I did when I worked for them. We were down in Thailand. We had several countries down in South Asia that we worked with. Mostly it was all LD military. There wasn't a lot of commercial that was done. I think a lot of the commercial guns went to Europe. There's several countries in Europe. But for as far as Southeast, Asia was concerned, I think it was mostly, just all military.
Thank you, Cunning Patriot. What do you think of the, is it Logo alien pistol? And is it too much money being at $5,000?
I have never heard of it.
Can we look it up?
Yeah, why don't you look that up? I've never heard of that. I got a CZ pistol on the way. It's about $5,000. It's a proprietary caliber. But yeah, I've never seen that one.
The first of its kind.
Well, no, I can't say that I've seen that one. Take a screenshot of that. We'll give the company a call. No, but I'll look into it. That's something I have not seen before. Sorry, I couldn't give you anything more on that. Now, some of these companies, when they have these expensive pistols, are a lot less likely to loan those out to reviewers. We were actually approached by CZ for this one, and it was a proprietary caliber. I'm trying to remember which one it was, but it was based off of it was CZ USA, I think it was.
If you absolutely cannot pin your gas block, what is the type of thread locker? Rock set or Loctite?
Well, for the most part, you're going to use a high temperature Loctite. That's what you're going to use. At the very least, you should try to get some kind of a dimple in there with a drill, so that pin can go a little bit further into there, so it would prevent it from going forward. At least try to do that. I would not try to just do a lot, locking it down without anything. It will eventually move forward.
Okay, so I'm gonna plop in here. It is a link to the SAS Armor store. Did I say Armor store? I've been working. I've been working too much today. It's our Amazon store on our SAS Amazon store. I've been working way too much, and it's organized by accessories, books, things to clean your rifle or gun, and it's all organized there. And Loctite is one of the items there, that the particular one that he recommends, along with other gadgets and things. So you can find it on there. But yeah, Loctite is, I know, because I've walked around in Walmart with them and asking a bunch of people where the Loctite was, and they're like, "What the hell is that?"
The game, gentlemen, there. The game. Yes, that's correct. That's the Bruno, the FK Bruno.
I have a Rusty Colt single action Army that was passed down to me. Should I have it re-blued or do anything to it? It's a family heirloom.
If it's a family heirloom, I wouldn't touch it. I will leave it the way it is. I'd make sure you get some good Jenny 6 gun treatment, spray it down to keep it, any corroding from any further. If it's something that you're going to use, you may want to try to restore it. But you know what? For a family heirloom, quite frankly, I wouldn't touch it. I try to find out what the history was. In fact, if it's a really old family heirloom, I probably even get a hold of Colt's archive and find out what the history of it is.
The SAS, I said the SAS Armor store. I've been working a lot. I can't even think anymore. No, it's our Amazon store for small arms solutions. It's all so people were asking what books to read that he recommends, and certain cleaning gear that he recommends.
She makes my thoughts efficient.
Yeah, and it's all organized too. Some of the other channels stores I saw, and they're just a hodgepodge of everything. These just organized in 4 different categories, so it's easier for you to find stuff. But all the products that he really is tried and true and he loves. But no, unfortunately, it's not a SAS gun store. For the guy saying the last call email for the Black Rifle book, I sent the email. How do I know if I'm on the list? Well, unfortunately, I'm doing this. When I'm done, I will handle all of that. And if you don't hear from me tonight, you'll hear from me tomorrow. So like I said, I've been working too much. Any thoughts on having a certified Knight's armor, cutting a 16-inch SR-15 down to a 13.7-inch with a pinned war comp? I don't want to lose the Knight's reliability. However, where I live, I cannot own an SBR.
That's an awfully expensive barrel to chop up. It's an awfully expensive barrel to chop up. You'd be better off keeping that barrel the way that it was and getting yourself an LMT upper receiver, MRP upper receiver, and they're a 13.5-inch barrel, and then doing that. Of course, you could if you have a competent gunsmith you trust who would cut that barrel down. Yeah, but like I said, I mean, you're looking at probably a $500, if not more, for that barrel to risk somebody screwing that sucker up. I think you're better off spending the money to get that upper receiver that'll drop onto your lights lower, and then you can have that barrel. And then of course you have the ability to switch to whatever else that you would want. Or if you were able to get another barrel that would fit onto that Knight's upper receiver, I'm sure you could use any kind. You'd be able to have the same kind of gas system probably. You probably got the newer generation gas system. But again, if you could find one that wasn't proprietary and it would work, I just would have a hell of a time chopping up a barrel of that quality and that expense.
What maker of AR-15 bolt do you feel has the highest structural integrity lends to itself to being machined out to a 458 SOCOM?
Well, quite frankly, the 458 SOCOM barrel or bolt that I have came out of Bushmaster, believe it or not. And I haven't really had enough rounds through it to say that there's anything wrong with it. It's most people who have those guns, they're not firing thousands of rounds through them just because of the cost of ammunition, and they would replace it out. I really can't think of anybody who would have a bolt for that would be outstanding over anybody else's. To be honest with you, because that's really what all these bolts are. They're basically this, standard AR-15 bolt carriers that are machined out. There's nothing special about them or their structure or anything. It's just they just machine out that the breech face area.
Do you have an aversion to Chinese-made accessories, or do you think that they can be acceptable? It seems companies like Holosun have strict QC for their Chinese contractors.
China is one of those countries where you can go from very high quality to crap. There's a lot of stuff like you see, that's really, really inexpensive. China, from a manufacturer and engineering standpoint, I will tell you, we hated the Chinese because when you would be at a trade show overseas, you would see 3 or 4 Chinese guys coming in with cameras taking complete detailed pictures of your gear. We had that happen when I worked for Colt. We had, when I saw working with other manufacturers, Otis. And what these guys would do is they would come in, they would take detailed photos, they would completely reverse engineer, and then they would put it for sale and export it. And there's no court in the world that was going to prevent them or enforce any kind of patents. Same thing happened to Magula. You guys know I love Magula stuff. Well, they found a knockoff that came out of China. So I think it would depend on the individual piece of equipment that you're getting your hands on, what the quality would be. Honestly, I don't buy any of that lower end stuff. I tend to stick with higher, more reputable manufacturers because mostly what I'm talking to you guys about is stuff that you can trust your life with. It's LE military type stuff. So I just don't mess with it. I tend to go with what I know is going to be, it's going to work. It's going to always be there. Whenever you use it, it's going to save your life. But I've had a lot of negative experiences, unfortunately, with Chinese people at trade shows. That a lot of manufacturers would just kick them right as soon as they saw them coming in. They saw Chinamen coming in with a camera, they were kicking them out. Because generally, that's what they were there to do. They were there to take those photos, and they were going to steal your technology.
Steve wants to know if you're comfortable enough with your lab radar to do a review yet.
I'm getting there, actually. Believe it or not, as much as I've used it, I'm still learning. I'll still have times where I'll go out there and all of a sudden they'll say it can't track, and then realizing, wait a minute, I'm using a sound suppressor. It's not giving enough of a muzzle blast to set the thing off for it to check. Believe it or not, I still learn using it. There will be something coming up. I've gotten to know how to do things with it. There will be. Maybe the next couple of times I go to the range, I'll bring it out there and we'll do something with it.
Would it be like a long video, or would it be like
No,
on the shorter end? Well, why don't we do it and give it just to Patreon people? I know Steve's on Patreon.
Yeah, we do that.
We haven't done a Patreon exclusive video in a while.
Yeah, we could do that.
It's killing me.
Give me a few weeks. We'll do that.
Michael wants to know, with the 6.716i accuracy close to 2 MOA with Henry being an awesome shooter, would an aftermarket trigger or more glass help? Stoner choose this, or what would Stoner do project? perfect.
I think a better trigger would have done wonders for that rifle. But you know, you're looking at a 16-inch rifle. This 308 was designed as a combat rifle, not as a sniper rifle. And you know, that's one of the things you have to keep in mind when you're looking at some of these. When you're looking at a lot of these 16-inch versions, they're designed more as a combat rifle. So you know that accuracy is well respectable. And always with you, when you have better accurate, better glass, you have you know, a trigger is probably one of the biggest things that makes the difference. Having a good trigger. That trigger on that 716 was not bad, but I think I'm sure Henry would agree too that if you give him a better trigger, he probably could do some better work with it.
I'm looking at buying a 50 cal precision rifle. What would be the best one for the money?
If they're still made, which I believe they are, the Armalite AR-50 was probably one of the best ones made. And there's one that probably I would also tell you to take a look at. It's Noreen. Noreen Firearms makes a couple incredible bolt action ones that are, you know, probably probably only a couple $3,000. I don't remember what the actual cost is, but they made an extremely budget friendly one, and they were accurate as hell. In fact, I have a video on that. If you go back along, you know, quite a ways, you'll see where I do a Noreen. It's a single shot bolt action, and we did quite well with it. But the AR-50 by Armalite, I mean, as nice as those Barretts are, they, you know, cost wise, they're not worth it. Unfortunately, you know, those guns, because of their popularity, the price has gone up and up and up and up on them, and it's just asinine money now.
The M16 development is generally perceived that the Army did not want it. However, it did have Army champions. Could you talk about Willard G. Wyman?
Well, there was people who outside of the Ordnance Corps who were forward thinking, and they could see that this was a new type of a war, and that modern warfare has changed. Um, Unfortunately, Ordnance was always stuck with those same people who believed, you know, they believed in the World War I and World War II, one shot, one kill, the lone marksman winning the battle, and all that, not realizing that we're going to be fighting a war that you're going to have enemy 10 feet in front of you that you can't see because of vegetation, who are laying down controllable, fully automatic fire, where you're not going to have the opportunity for that one shot, one kill. Um, it was a lack of forward thinking, and people who wanted to cover their asses. They were responsible for the production in the U.S. Arsenals. They were manufacturing these rifles. These rifles were designed in U.S. government run arsenals, and those arsenals were not what you would call really designed people. These were people who would take current designs and modify them. There was no forward thinking. It was, all right, we're dealing with steel and we're iron and wood. That's what we got to stay with. You know, so there was a lot of people in the Army who were champions over it, but unfortunately, the ones who were making the decisions were the Ordnance Corps. The guys in the field saw the benefits for them, but unfortunately, that was overshadowed by the weapons that were malfunctioning because Ordnance wasn't doing their job. But you know, this is the one place, Kerry, where the Air Force really did spearhead this program. Good General Curtis LeMay, who was a very influential, very powerful individual at that time. The rifle had its champions. Unfortunately, the ones who were making the decisions were the ones who were the naysayers.
And I'm seeing your thing where you said that you sent a donation over on DonorBox. I actually see it on when I sign in online, but your question is not there, and I didn't get an email for it. So I am very sorry. If you could email me your question at hbertacci@smallarmsolutions.com, I'll pull it immediately as soon as it comes through. If anybody else that's happened with, let me know, and we'll fix it for you. I don't know. I think my email is like overlogged. Yeah. I've been complaining about that for a while. Like when I send out newsletter stuff, because there's so many people in the newsletter now, it goes over my quota a lot of times for the emails that I'm allowed to then get in for the rest of the night. Like, and I have emails here from people that want the book, but like, I don't know. My email gave up. But Adam, please send that over. Oh, he said he doesn't have a question for tonight, but he sent his donation. Oh, Adnan, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
How do you feel about Pomona State Armory making a fully nitride BCG? There is absolutely no chrome lining.
That's not uncommon. That's nothing. Many manufacturers do that. So I guess I'm unremarkable. I don't really have anything to say about it because it's not new. Um, the one thing I will say about it is when you look at people who are selling to actual governments, militaries, they still want manganese phosphate and they want chrome plating because it is a benefit. I tend to look at the nitride as being it's cost effective. It's definitely less. It's definitely hard, but you don't have the lubricity or the issues that really make chrome stand out. But I would probably say well over three-quarters of the bolt carriers that you're seeing coming out these days are not chrome plated. They're either complete melanite or complete QPQ or complete nickel boron, nickel Teflon, black nitride. You're not seeing it. Personally, I'm a fan of having the chrome on the inside. As you guys know, that I am a big proponent of chrome plating altogether because of all the benefits that it has and the various types of properties. But no, I think Palmetto State Armory, the rifle that I have of theirs, which is sitting over here, that's going to be part two coming up. That is a chrome plated. That particular one is, and I do believe my KS-47 is not. So it's common these days. It's very common, even with the big boys. It's common not to see chrome plating, but when you're selling to a government, you're going to see chrome plating.
Thanks, guys, for all the nice comments about putting out the work and doing the Q&As and stuff. It seems like every Q&A, we always have somebody who comes in and tries to say that we only take paid questions. And, there's nights like tonight where, 95% of the questions are not paid. So it's like, you can't make everybody happy. It's fine. There's only almost 400 people in here. Hit the like button.
Please hit the likes.
Rolling back to the top. Do you think the current technology of Polymer is enough to allow AR to have complete Polymer receiver?
Well, I can tell you from the work I've done with American Tactical with their lower receiver, absolutely. Would I want to do a clamshell type or one that that came together in two pieces? And no. We've done a lot, and I've done a lot of work on the Omni Max, the newest generation, to feel very confident in its abilities. Other ones I can't say as much. The early, obviously you guys saw the early American Tactical Polymer receivers. Those were a complete nightmare. You look at all the other ones; they were complete nightmares. The only one that I've seen to date, which was done correctly, was the Omni Max, with the metal inserts in it. And you also have to understand that the lower receiver is not a high impact area, though it doesn't take a lot of abuse. So as long as it's manufactured properly, where everything lines up properly, it's not really a major issue. But if you look back in the early days with Colt was looking at it where they had complete stock and everything all in one, where they came together, and it wasn't really much of a good idea. The other thing is why plastic? Because if you look at the plastic like the Omni, it's about the same weight as the aluminum, which is true. The polymer is different. There are some issues that it doesn't have. It doesn't corrust. It doesn't corrode. It doesn't. There's no embrittlement. So there's a benefit there. However, when you're drilling your holes for your hammer, trigger disconnector, all that kind of stuff, it's more consistent and it's easier on metal to have more precision because you don't have polymer that's cooling down. So I think it's whatever you like. It's I don't think you're going to sacrifice any kind of reliability by going with I can get Omni Polymer lower receiver. Other ones not so much. There's other ones that there's no idea you want to take a look at. But that's only because I was more involved with the development, and I've done so much more with that with the Omni.
Adnan's question on Donor Box. Thank you, Adnan. About the original AR-16 that Eugene Stoner developed with Armalite chambered in 308, even though the weapon didn't go anywhere before it was scaled down to AR-18, does Reed Knight have possession of that particular rifle in his personal museum?
Yes, he does. Those rifles were all part of Stoner's collection for the most part, and he was able to get them. All those prototypes from Armalite, he got all of them. Reed Knight has probably 3/4 of all of the history of that rifle in his own museum, in his own personal museum.
Okay, there was a second part of a question up here from Michael that we need to that you didn't answer? Because he talked about the 716i accuracy.
Mhm.
The second part of it was, would Stoner choose this or the What Would Stoner Do project?
Oh, I think he would be far more interested in this than he would the 5.56. Again, if you look at the interviews with Stoner over his career, he never liked 5.56. It only came to the point where he knew he wasn't going to win with a 5.5 or win with a 7.62. He knew that the government wanted a shiv or a small caliber high velocity. He knew they wanted that, so he was asked by General LeMay, Curtis LeMay, to scale that sucker down, which is what he did. And then once that took, you know, he went back to his AR-16 because he had to do something different. And of course, he went back to 7.62 rather than going to the 5.56. And then 5.56 started becoming acceptable and what some people wanted. So then he had to scale it down. When he went to work for Reed Knight, first thing he did was he brought his AR-10 back because that's where his desire always was. That's what he always wanted to work on, and there's never any question about that from his own mouth.
Irrespective of the disadvantages innate to shorter barreled ARs chambered in 5.56, what would be your ideal AR pistol barrel length?
10.5. I would not go below 10.5 because I'm looking at a gun that I want to have combat reliability with, and that's a proven system. You go below that, you have issues, and that's why you don't see any of those shorter PDWs in use in any military. The lowest you're going to see is a 10.5.
The 366 people in here, please hit the like button. Let's try to get it to 200 likes.
Goals. Hey, I want to put out something to you guys as a request if any of you guys have it. I am currently looking for some M855a1 ammunition made over the last 3 years. I'm looking for about 20 rounds. I'm looking to do some lab testing on it to do a comparison between that and something that came out in 2015 or 2014 to see if there has been any changes in the load, particularly the port pressures, because there's been rumors that the ammunition has been changed because of the M27s that the Marine Corps uses. It wasn't working with it. They had to lower the port pressures. And so far as I know, that's only a rumor. I'm looking to get some new production ammunition to do a test on to compare that to the original to see if there has been any changes. Again, I don't take anybody's word for it. I want to see it for myself. If any of you guys can find or have access to, I'm just looking for 20 rounds of new production ammunition.
And do you want to say what's going to go up tomorrow? Because we have a new video coming
up. Tomorrow, thanks to one of our viewers who provided me with, we're doing a video on...
That's Sean.
Sean?
Thanks, Sean.
Sean? We are doing one on M16A2 identification of U.S. government upper receivers. What we're going to be showing is a actual Colt and an actual FN M16A2 upper receiver. We're going to go over the barrel marks, the receiver marks. We're going to look over bolts, bolt carrier markings, even some of the stuff that's sort of strange. Interesting, like the FN, you've had FN barrels that are marked, FN bolt carriers that were marked F, and then you had ones that were marked FN as well. They were marked a couple different ways, which is interesting. You did have some barrels that weren't even marked with a factory code, which I don't know how they got those through, but they did. But we're going to see some of those differences in those markings for M16A2s. You're going to get some information on cage codes and common cage codes and those kinds of things. So that's going to be very, very interesting. And another interesting one we're going to have coming up next couple of weeks is going to be the history of the flat top upper receiver, where that came from and who is responsible for it. I think many of you will find that interesting. You also have heard me why I never use the term Picatinny rail because it pisses me off. Picatinny has nothing to do with it, and it had nothing to do with it. And the fact that it was called that was not a proper name. That is the Mil Standard 1913 rail. Picatinny is merely the contractor. Same thing who would contract the M4. We don't call the M4 the Picatinny rifle. We call it the M4. So I don't know.
Definitely tell that stirs you up.
I don't know where the Picatinny rail came from. Where that was. If you want to talk about who designed it, that was Richard Swan who designed the those dimensions. It was Bill Weaver in the 1950s who developed the first dovetail. It was Hank Tatro at Colt who developed the first flat top upper receivers that's very different from what we have now. But when we first saw scopes being mounted at a proper eye level, so we're going to go through that and see where that history comes from.
Yeah, Sean's been great for our channel as far as getting stuff to us. So hats off to Sean.
Thank you.
Actually, he signed your book today, Sean, and he was funny. He was like, Sean, he's lent us so much stuff, and I just want to do something special for him. So he went to my office and got one of our SAS stickers
Yes.
and like put it in there with the inscription and everything in there. So just know, Sean, that was placed with love and care by Chris.
Well, I appreciate so much all of you guys who send us out stuff, because there's stuff that we couldn't do without you.
Sean sent us a lot, though.
Yes.
And he's been very, very patient, too, when it's taken us sometimes longer than necessary to get it out.
And he should have that upper receiver back by now.
Hopefully. Fan of the old Cav Arms Polymer. Has been running strong for many years.
Really?
Thicker in the right areas.
Well, I'm glad to hear you've had good luck with it, because people I know haven't had so much good luck with it.
Someone was asking earlier how you think of what you think of the Manta suppressor covers.
The Manta suppressor covers, you know what? When you look at them, I know it, and we've always known it has this dildo look to it. The way that it looks. However, it is the most effective suppressor cover in the world. And I can tell you, when it first came out, I was out in Vegas at Dan Shea's at the Long Mountain Outfitters out there, the gun shop he had. We took one of his cans, we put this suppressor sleeve on it, went out to the desert, and I shot 3 magazines on full auto as fast as I could change magazines. I was able to hold that rifle by the suppressor sleeve. There is nothing out there, not one cover that you guys will find that you will be able to do that does a better job of keeping mirage out of the shooter's face when it's being used. Not to mention it does the proper work of not burning holes in your pants if it gets on there. The only negative that there ever was to that, other than the perceived look, was it would cover up the serial number of the suppressor. So if any of you guys have a problem with that's one issue, because it does cover up the serial number. But there is no question that those are the best in the industry. Also, they've made those kind of suppressor sleeves for the Browning Madus 50 caliber machine guns for changing barrels out. It gives you a place where you can grab a hold of to change the barrels out on them. There's absolutely no question. The reason I don't have them on my suppressors that you see is because I'm always swapping out suppressors, and I'm talking about those suppressors. And unfortunately, if I show you, a Silencer Co. Osprey, and all you're seeing is a sleeve over it, you're not going to be able to get anything out of it. And that's the only reason why I don't have. If I had a personal suppressor that I wasn't going to be doing anything with other than personal, I would have one on it. But that's the only reason why you don't see them on there, is because I'm showing all these different suppressors, and I'm talking about the suppressors that I have those sleeves on them, and they're not easy to get on and off either.
You know what? We're going down a really dark road here. One guy said, "Made to cover rip for your pleasure."
That's it. The owner of the company says the same thing.
You opened it up for that, though.
The owner of the company says the same thing.
Really, at this point, the only ad revenue I even see is on our live streams, and you just cost us that by saying dildo.
I apologize, but that's what Frank Frank Michael, owner who I worked with for years. I worked with this company for God knows, and I've seen incredible tests, and I've been part of incredible tests. And those were actually his words of what he said it looked like. But when you saw the performance,
there's an advertisement you can get behind.
We just hit 400, 402 it was.
It's over 200 likes. See?
Wow. We're probably hitting records.
He's been working with Manta for years and years. We do have a code. It's one of our 3 codes that we do have for products. It's SAS20. It saves you 20% off their entire Manta website. So if you're interested in any of the handguards or suppressor,
I was just talking
dildos, you can get those for 20%
I was just talking to William Trotter, Michiko, the other night, and when I sent the GAW 5 back to him, Midwest Industries GAW 5, I left the Manta suppressor, I'm sorry, the Manta rail panels on for him, and he freaking loved them because he wants more of them. So now I got to hook him up with where he can get those, because he likes them. They work.
I have an OSS suppressor in jail and have seen some videos where the finish is coming off quickly. Have you used the Manta suppressor? Oh, wait. That was Chris's question. Yeah, I pulled it before.
No, this is a little bit different. OSS suppressors I have not had an opportunity to use. As I said, when you don't have, I don't have an SOT, so I can't. It's much more difficult to have suppressor sets for me to be used in the sendbacks. I basically end up having to buy them, wait for the stamp, and so forth. Now, those suppressors work a little bit differently, and they probably would get a little bit hotter the way that they work. I don't have any firsthand knowledge of that. I know they do work differently.
See, I do go back up to the top of all questions. It's a shame the military doesn't show your video on myth of the M16. Many soldiers, including myself, thought the platform was unreliable due to Vietnam.
Well, the Army never wanted to, just like there was never any numbers that were kept of how many people that died because of the malfunctions. It's something that they want to talk about. They don't want to talk to people about that they screwed up in the past, even though they fixed it. They don't want to admit to any kind of failure. So it makes perfect sense the way the Army would work. Even though that would clear up a lot of things, unfortunately, they don't do it. They don't want to ever talk about any of their failures, and there's a lot of them, especially in ordnance. There's a lot of failures.
And this reminds me of a question that was asked earlier, and there's been a lot of questions that unfortunately we haven't gotten to, but they wanted to know. They were saying that they use your videos and training for. And I forgot who it was. It was for like...
Yeah. It was a National Guard. I think it was National Guard.
Yeah, that are using your videos for training. And they wanted to know where your background came from. And then somebody else asked that as well tonight. If you guys have those questions, new subscribers, you can watch the video, Who is Chris Bartocci? It's a video I forced him to do that he was not down to do. But just like now, you can go back to that video and get, a complete resume in video form. He's worked at many gun manufacturers. He writes manuals. The long story short of it, 10 years in forensics, lots of good stuff. Is there any future for caseless ammunition?
There's certainly a future for any kind of new ammunition. I think caseless is going to be the next generation. And when you do have caseless ammunition, that's going to be your new generation of weapons. As I said, we've looked at the rifle platforms we have today. I think we've hit a plateau on what you can do with metallic cartridges. The next generation weapons is going to be something non-metallic, which is going to be new weapons. And I think probably cases is probably the way it's going to go. That technology has been in use since probably back into the 90s when there was the ACR program, Advanced Combat Rifle program, where H&K was working on it. The problem was the reliability of it. So that's something they've been working out. At some point, I think that will be the next generation.
The last name is pronounced Bartocci. So it's like the bar, ta, and chi.
Bartocci.
Well,
technically,
a year ago, my father-in-law says to me, no, actually, I found out that all the Italians are telling me it's Bartocci. Yeah, and I'm like, look, it took me 20 years to be able to say my last name. Like, you can't change it for me now.
She still says Bartocci.
And you say it like a Yankee.
Mm.
That's what you are.
401. Wow. I'm sorry. I keep looking at these numbers because, I said, we're seeing records. Evolutions of our channel with the numbers increasing.
Is the M855a1 banned or just banned to use? Will I get in trouble shipping those? I know a guy. I will look into it and email you guys.
No, it's the funny thing is about M855a1, there is no surplus. So we know that if wherever it comes from, it's basically disappeared from someplace. So I mean, no, I've had people ship me ammunition on a regular basis. In fact, there was one person unfortunately I don't have his name here. We have been talking a lot about the Mark 318 SOST ammo, and Black Hills just came out with a new round they call the dual performance, and it's very similar. So this gentleman was nice enough to send me out a box or so of the Mark 318 Mod 1. That I will be taking to a lab, and we'll be doing a direct comparison between that and the new Black Hills round. And we're going to do all the gel tests and all the measurements for the chamber pressures and all that kind of stuff. And we're going to be able to see just how these two rounds perform. And this is the same way that I want to test out the M855a1. We want to take, again, new production versus the old and see if there's any difference between the two of them.
Don't touch me. USP Elite, yes or no? Looking for my first 45 ACP since I can still get large primers.
I've actually been going through a little 45 thing recently. For years, my favorite 45 was the HK45 Tactical. I've got a Glock 21. The HK45 Tactical, it just had some things that were that much I like better, the recoil reduction mechanism and so forth. Then one of my viewers sent me an an FNX 45. I have complete and utterly fell in love with that gun. I just put a Trigicon, MRO on it, and the suppressor, and it has literally become my favorite 45 that exists. Um, the thing about that versus the Glock and the HK is it's not a military pistol, although it could be. It's never been put into the testing so far, so we don't know how good it is compared to reliability compared to the other ones. However, I can just tell you that I have just literally gone nuts over this FNX 45. Putting the tactical light, the suppressor, and the red dot on it. It's just a lethal, pinpoint accurate. You can literally remove fingerprints with it. It's an incredible pistol. It's taken every type of ammunition I put through it. Again, I don't know what its longevity is because it's never been tested like the HKs that have seen military service. But that's really been my favorite one, and the HK probably still would be my number two. The Glock I like. I have, in fact, you'll be seeing a video coming up on the Glock 41 with a brand new Delta Pro red dot on it. Accurate as can be, shoots the center right out of the target. Um, it's just all the features that FNX and the HK give you over what the Glock does. And that's the thing that's different about it. For instance, the trigger on the Glock, because you had a little tit in the middle when you pull the trigger back, you feel that little tit in your finger.
Demonetized.
It gets uncomfortable after a while because it's sticking into your finger, where you don't get that with the HK or the FNX. So that makes a difference for your longer term shooting. Recoil, it's great. I don't have a suppressed barrel for the G41 yet, but you'll be seeing some videos coming up on these in the future. But the FNX 45, man, that really threw me through a loop of what I thought my favorite 45s were, and I probably got a few thousand rounds out of that gun now, and it's worked beautifully.
By what means are chambers and port pressures measured?
Well, it depends. The way that's done in most laboratories is you will have a barrel. You'll have basically a fixed barrel, and you will have a reader right at the tip of the chamber, which will give you your chamber pressure. And then you will have various holes in different lengths that would be port pressure. So you would have, say you go out like 9 inches and you have your port pressure for a mid-length gas system. You get your reading from there. And that would go in different lengths. You would just unscrew and place your sensor where it needs to be. That's generally how that it works. Port pressure, for instance, we're working with an M4 carbine, so you would have a port pressure that would be at that gas line system. So you'd be able to get your chamber pressure and your port pressure for both those readings, and both those numbers are critical. Because, for instance, if you look at the Vietnam era stuff, you look at the M16 with the original ball propellant versus the IMR propellant, both reach this exact same chamber pressure. But the way that the peak was on the ball pressure or ball powder, your peak pressure at the peak pressure at the port remained higher at the same time as the IMR did. So even though you reached the exact same chamber pressure at the time at the port, your residual pressures were much higher with the ball. So, and that's caused by the propellants. That's where that all comes from. That's why it's a little bit more difficult with a lot of these commercial guns that don't use using a proper military propellant, proper military load with a proper setup, proper gas port, proper buffer, proper all that stuff. It's not balanced. A military system you can balance because you have a consistent round, where in the commercial realm we have out here, ammo's across the board. I mean, you look at Wolf on one side where you have low chamber pressure, low port pressure that won't work in some guns. Then you go to a Mark 262, which you have high port pressures and high chamber pressures, but they're all within spec, and you have a proper gas port on a Mil-Spec government rifle. Where now we take a modern sporting rifle that's designed for Wolf, which you have to open up the gas port, so it will cycle with this ammunition with lower port pressure. Now you put proper military ammunition to it. Now the gun's overgassed. This is how this is all. Believe it or not, it is a science of how all this stuff works.
Well, if you guys that were not at the beginning of the chat, we have our batch of Black Rifle 2 books, but unfortunately I'm 6 short, so I have to order 1 more case, which means I have 8 available. It does look like I have 3 who have already claimed them, so that means I have 5 that are available. That will be part of that pre-order case that I will be ordering this week. So if you are interested in that, you can send me an email at hbartachi@smallarmsolutions.com. They will come signed. They are $95 each, and that includes shipping. And if you send me an email, I will send you an invoice and get your address and all of that good stuff. So I think we're going to be done for the night. Wait.
Thank you all very much. I hope you guys enjoyed your evening. We got to as many questions as we can. I guess
Yes.
it seems like it's going to start getting harder with the numbers increasing. But she'll tell you again that you guys want to send any questions over to hbartachi@smallarmsolutions.com. We do.
That's not how it works.
You do that. You tell them.
If you guys have a question that you would like outside of the chat, 7 days a week, we do answer those by email. There is a donor box link on smallarmsolutions.com. We just ask for a donation in any amount. You can attach your question into the comment section, and we'll get an emailed response within a few hours. So
thank you guys very much. We'll see you next week or two.